you for coming. This is an amazing turnout, and I see a lot of your theater folks and city folks and whale folks and historic folks. So we're really happy about the support on this project. My name's...
Get some of them up here. Reverend, come on up.
You're actually gonna introduce him.
I'm going to. All right, sorry.
And we
have
it.
I didn't get the memo. All right, I knew that.
We have Reverend Saeed here too, and a special guest of his as well that he will introduce.
All right.
So we have our contractor here, Mike Frank with John F. Shea. He's in charge, the supervisor on the project. So my name's Terry Bernard. I'm director of Whale, and we've been working on this project for 4 years, and it's been a long time coming with a lot of people involved. But I think the first week on my job at Whale, the mayor called me into his office and he said, a priority of Wales is going to get First Baptist restored, and that was like that was the goal for Whale. And we've done other projects, but this has definitely been the board's, I must say, favorite, I think. And then it's been a real collaboration with working through with your theater and the congregation and the city and the Historic Commission and the state, and a lot of meetings, and a lot of collaboration, and it all came together surprisingly, with a lot of hard work on multiple people's part. I want to call out for Ann Lauro, who is the historic preservation planner for the city. I must have called her, 500 times on this project. And he's not here tonight, unfortunately, but Reverend David Lima was just indispensable in working with the congregation. And then, and Reverend Saeed's just, the hard decision that he had to make with his congregation and coming to that realization, and then working with Whale and your theater at a shared use plan that would work for the church. So it is a national model of sharing a sacred place between a community nonprofit and a congregation. The National Trust for Historic Preservation named this a national treasure, this building 2 years ago, because of that, the way we were saving it but keeping all the parties in their house. And it's also famed Robert's Rules of Order. So we're going to have a little exhibit in here, just going through the history of parliamentary procedure and Robert's Rules of Order. I think your theater's going to actually do a play in the sanctuary about that meeting. I guess it was a 13-hour meeting, right, Eric? We actually Eric and I were on NPR talking about the church a couple of weeks ago. But I'm going to keep this short. Jan De Silva was really helpful. I don't know if she's here today. And of course, our partner, Bristol County Savings Bank. The city worked with Bristol County Savings Bank and Christina Connolly and the mayor in helping to secure the funds for the boiler that was put in that very cold winter when the boiler failed. So just a lot of help. And I can't thank the mayor enough for all of his help and support along the way, and the check-ins and making sure that we were keeping on track. So thank you.
Thank
and
you.
With that, I'd like to introduce the mayor. A huge supporter on all our whale projects, but I think this is his pet.
That's true. That's true. That's true.
And in the next 3 months, the contractor will have that steeple restored. I encourage you to look at the weather vane that's here on the ground. It's really cool, and it's a squid. and Anna's picked the paint colors for it, so and it'll be fully restored as well as the tower. With the bell, we were trying to have the bell ringing today, but it's in a place where we can't touch it right now. So, but thank you.
All right, thank you, Terry. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Yeah, go ahead.
Also, this should have come first, but my board was so supportive through this whole process on this project, as well as my staff. Diane Broder in my office was actually weeding and picking up nip bottles to prepare for this event. And just Aaron Dougherty, who's here, and Rachel Allison. So just tremendous staff help along the way, as well as if you know the New Bedford Union Carpenters, they've done a tremendous amount of volunteer work in here as well. So, and Carl Silva, I don't know if he's here, but he's on our board and he led that charge. That's it.
All right. No, there are lots of people to thank. And, I was looking at the weather vane and I was thinking, I don't see squid, but now I'm starting to see it. Take a close look at it. This day's been a long time in coming, a real long time in coming, and it's really exciting to be here, to be part of this, and to see it really become a part of the city's story. And it take us back. Let's all sort of in our mind's eye go back to 1863 as the Civil War was raging, and there was a young lieutenant who was assigned to the garrison down at Fort Tabor. Who was trying to, who was not out fighting the war, but manning a garrison that was subject to Confederate raiders, at least potentially, and subject to attack by Confederate raiders. But he was also part of the community, and he decided to talk about the defense of the work that his unit was doing in defense of the harbor, in defense of all the tremendous amount of wealth and assets in New Bedford at the time. The whaling industry was going through a bit of a convulsion because of the Civil War, but nevertheless, I mean, as we all know, it was an extraordinarily successful place with a tremendous concentration of capital here that was to be protected, in addition to the people, of course. And so he started off in a meeting. We're familiar with meetings that get out of control. At least I can speak for myself that every once in a while we have meetings that get out of control, public meetings, even under the best of intentions. But there was, for him at the time, there was sort of no recourse, no sort of safe harbor, of no way to sort of, get the deliberation to a point where people could have, meaningful input and actually get to a point. And so, yeah, I didn't realize that the meeting lasted some 13 hours, but it is believable, and people were a lot more free with their time back then than they are now. That was the time before, of course, Twitter feeds, when we listen in for to a 30-second video, and then our attention span has expired. They could fix their attention for a lot longer, but nevertheless, it was chaotic. And so, as folks know, they're familiar with the story. Young Lieutenant then Roberts, later ultimately promoted to Captain Roberts, went back and said, you know what, we can't let this happen. And he started, that was the inspiration for a set of rules that really have changed the world, and have changed the world in a very productive way. I mean, it's hard to, history always has its other sides of the coin. But, when it comes to the creation of something that facilitates democracy, it's hard to say there's a downside at all. The rules that this young Army captain put into play have really shaped the way that democracy has unfolded across the world. And in that sense, made the world a better place, a place where more people could get their voices heard, where more people where bodies with authority could actually make better decisions, in a world in which things could get done. And that's what it's all made sense out of. Now, they're hard rules to master. If anybody's ever witnessed a New Bedford school committee meeting that I've chaired. I can say I'll be the first to admit that the chairman really doesn't have a mastery of the rules. But I know the basics, and for those of us who know the basics, at least we can get to a point in the meeting and allow for people to be heard and allow for better decisions to be made. And that is a contribution to not just the United States that Lieutenant Roberts should be credited with, and the events that happened here gave rise to, but really making the world a better place. Most of the world now arguably is ruled by democracies, at least arguably, and we've reached a point now where the rules that govern parliaments all across the world are in some way derived from Robert's rules, and that is pretty significant. And it all started here, and so I say all this in part not just to talk about my own inspiration, and one of the many inspirations I have for, as Terry nicely put it, throwing my weight around to get this project moving, but also to really offer an argument that what happened here in ways that we could probably spend a lot more time talking about really should be part of the bigger New Bedford narrative. It goes somewhat unheralded. That this is a big part of our history, and we've contributed to the betterment of the world here, we collectively as a community. And so my hope is that this project and things that could be added here and discussed and talked about over the years ahead will become front and center of an even more rich narrative for our city. And so that's my hope, and I know that many of you share that same sentiment. None of this happens without people stepping up, and it's not just City Hall. City government is part of it and has to be part of it. But we wouldn't get to this point without people saying, amen to that. This is important to me. It's important to my city. It's important to it will be important to my kids and grandchildren. And so people got together and they collaborated. Collaboration is a bit of a cliche these days, but you guys worked like a team. You got together, and people made sacrifices. Ideas were exchanged. Whale stepped up, and it's a lot's changed at Whale in the last few years, Terry, of course. But rewind 5 or 6 years ago, and Whale wasn't in the same place in terms of its finances, in terms of its governance that it is now. Whale's improved a lot, but back then it was a lot riskier for Whale to take on, and you guys did, and you and your board deserve a great deal of credit for that. This is exactly the stuff that Whale should be doing. And then you look around, and Reverend Saeed, boy, you guys probably noticed, like, I park right there every day, and poor Reverend Saeed, every time, it was almost like every once in a while I'd be lurking over here to see if he'd come out to start talking to him, say, hey, Reverend, any progress with the flock? Is any people coming around to the idea of doing something different here? And as much as he and I have joked about it, that's a big imposition for anybody else to say, you know what, you should do something with your church, do something different, right? Worship is the most personal, probably arguably the most personal thing you can do, right? The most intimate thing you can do. And to say that, for others to say your house of worship should be put to some other use or should be opened up to other uses takes a little bit of chutzpah, but it also, on his end, even to consider it, took an extraordinary amount of openness. And I just want to thank you for working through it, for talking to your congregation, for your congregation's openness about this and their willingness to support the community. It was asking a lot, frankly, not financially, but spiritually, in terms of just the personal lives of your congregation. I just want to ask everybody to join me in a round of applause for what you contributed to all this. It's a hard thing. I want to thank Ann, of course, for her sticking with this. We tried some novel, I don't want to say accounting practices. We were all very transparent again, but we stretched the city's ability to put liens on buildings and things like that. Probably probably more than we, far more than that we had in the past, and we worked through that to try to light a fire under things, and I think it worked. And I just want to thank Ann and Pat Sullivan and the entire team who are devoted to historic preservation in our city. I want to thank your theater, which is fabulous. I mean, if you haven't been to a your theater show, and I'm overdue, it's been a while for me, I confess, but your theater does fabulous work, and Gil and Eric and Al and everybody, Caroline, everybody who's associated with it, I know I'm leaving folks out, are going to be fabulous performers in here, but they're also going to create another downtown theatrical space, performance space that will be good for the downtown economy for sure, but also be front and center in the downtown art scene. So I think it's great that you guys are here. I mean, I'm a big fan of your theater. Really want to thank you guys for sticking with it all along the way. I also want to thank, and I'm going to pay for this in the paper at some point, no good deed goes unpunished, but I want to thank the Squire of Mechanics Lane, none other than Jack Spillane, for telling the story here, not just about Robert's Rules, but also about the role of abolitionism in this church, and how the folks who worshipped here, those who presided over the congregation, were part of this city's fervent abolitionist movement, one that really lit a fire under folks who went off to serve in the Civil War, but also colored what the city would become in the 20th century, a tolerant place, a place that was welcoming, and a place that is really a great example for other cities. So I want to thank Jack for bringing the story forward. It's a real mark of his journalism that this thing continued to be talked about all the time. And I want to thank all of you. Derek Santos and many others in city government who helped. Christina Connolly, of course, all the folks at Whale. Way too many people. Tony Cabral has been a huge supporter of this the entire time he's been in the legislature, and I'm really glad that Tony's here today to be part of this as well. And we look forward to the day when this opens up and we can continue to brag about it and bring people in here to enjoy and feel proud about their city. So, Terry, thank you again, and we really appreciate everything that's happening here, and we look forward to the work ahead. Thank you.
I'd like to introduce Reverend Saeed to say a few words. I gotten to know very well Reverend Saeed over the past 4 years, and I've learned things from you, and especially I've learned the passion that you have for what you do in your congregation. So it's been a pleasure. I do have to call out as well John Auman, who is here. John took, we just have a few more windows to go, but John took all the windows back to his workshop and painstakingly restored every one. He's a master carpenter.
Thank you, Mayor, for your nice words. And thank you for coming this day here under this sun. I guarantee you that it's not a 30-minute sermon. Just a few words of acknowledgement, gratitude, and celebration. First of all, to God, who has led us to this point where we are now. We are about to see this beautiful building, historical building, renewed. I hope and I'm sure to its original beauty. It has been also relevant because of what has been taking place within these walls throughout the years. And we as church have felt from the beginning, since I came to this place 20 years ago, we started noticing the needs of the building, of acts of preservation in this place. And a few years later, we started having a preservation committee, organizing a preservation committee. And we are thankful for all the friends that joined us at that time from the beginning. Reverend Pam Cole was one of them. Later on, Pastor David Lima also joined us to help us. So we are grateful to all those who have been walking the walk with us, that have felt that we as a small church, we were struggling to find ways and resources and means to have this building preserved, because we felt it didn't belong just to the church. It's a historical building. It belongs to the community. And so we are thankful to the Lord and to the friends that have been walking with us through the years to see this moment, and also the conclusion of the works that we know now are going to happen. They're going to take place. And so we rejoice and we celebrate what we are now about to see. And I thank you. I thank also the authorities, the mayor, the former mayor that was also a friend of ours and played some role in this process, and Laurel, and so many others from the community. I'm just afraid that I couldn't mention all the names, but we thank all of you, all of our friends that have been able to give us some of their time and also their knowledge, their wisdom to help us and guide us. And so finally, in partnering with your theater and Whale, we came to a point that now what we dreamed about, we wished for so long, is going to be a reality. So it now, our desires and plans come to fruition. It's starting now. And we thank you, all of you. Thank you very much.
Terry just did that.
Yeah, I know. But I cannot miss thanking especially the leaders of the American Baptist Churches of Massachusetts. They have been a magnificent resource for us. And we have so many meetings with our friends, but also our brothers and sisters from the American Baptist Churches of Massachusetts, TABCOM. They have been with us all along this time. And I want to recognize now and acknowledge Reverend Mary Day Miller. She's here with us, and she's the current executive minister of TABCOM, the American Baptist Churches of Massachusetts. Thank you.
To wrap it up, we have the head of your theater, Sue Richards, who's been leading her team all over there, all over the place. And they've really worked hard, countless meetings, and a lot of faith that this was going to happen, and a lot of patience.
A lot of trepidation.
A lot of patience. So here's Sue.
Thank you. Thanks, Terry. It's with great pleasure that I speak to you this evening on behalf of the entire Your Theater family. All of our board members, our business office, our artistic team, our volunteers, our actors, and especially our audience. And many of them are here this evening, so I'm so happy to see all of you here. We believe that community theater is an incredible creative outlet for everyone involved, and that it exposes our family, our friends, and the community to the theater arts, sometimes for the very first time. Community theater can be seen as a gateway for many to the world of the arts, a world that is becoming more vibrant and stronger in New Bedford with each passing day. For 72 years, Your Theater members have worked to provide quality theater at affordable prices for everyone in the area. For the past decade, we have been searching for a way to improve our ability to do so and to participate in a more active way in the local arts community. The incredible opportunity to be in the heart of downtown, in a permanent home, and to be a contributor to the preservation of such an incredible historic building was too good a chance to pass up. We saw that becoming an arts and community center, partnering with local organizations who might need a space of this size for things such as weddings or other theatrical events, films, conferences, all kinds of activities, will help to keep the building stable and active and ensure that YTI will have a place to continue to provide great theatrical performances. This is a huge responsibility and undertaking for us, and we know that, but we think that we're up for the challenge. We would like to say a special thank you to the First Baptist Church congregation and Reverend Saeed for being a cordial and fair partner. This is not just a building for them, this is their home, and we will be glad to have them as a continuing partner as we go forward. We'd also like to thank our city leaders, and especially Mayor Mitchell, and our legislative delegation for all of their support and encouragement. And we hope that you'll enjoy watching the transformation as it takes place from right across the street. Thanks to all of those who have contributed their time, their skill, and their financial support to the project. But please keep it up. We've just started. We are far, far from finished. And of course, a tremendous thank you to Whale for, well, I guess for just being Whale. Without Terry and her team, we could not and would not have even begun this process. The work that Whale has done to preserve so many wonderful buildings in this area is priceless. We are excited to contribute all that we can to preserve one such important space and to simultaneously be a beneficiary of all their hard work. As we continue the process of becoming custodians of this vital property, we will do all that we can to ensure that it never falls into disarray again. Thank you all so much for coming. We really appreciate it. And I was going to say enjoy the show, but there's no show to enjoy, so that's my ending for every theater speech. But you're welcome to come inside and take a look at the building, which will soon be a theater space to challenge none. Thank you so much.
All right.